Please pray with me. Praise God. As I look at the world around us, I see so much that I do not understand or that is discouraging. Lord, I need you to change the eyes of my heart so that I see the world with your compassion, especially for those who are brought down by the injustice of the world. Help me be able to see you in the least of these. Help me to be the one through whom someone may see you this week. Now I pray, Lord, that the words of my mouth, the words of our hearts, the words that are spoken, the words that are heard will be your word. For only when you speak, Lord, do we have life. What's in your wallet? I don't watch much commercial television, so I don't know if that commercial is still on. I don't know if it grated on you as much as it grated on me. But of course, since it was annoying, I remembered it, and that's what they wanted. It reminded me to consider, am I getting the same rewards out of my credit card that they are offering? Jesus, however, seems to be asking not what is in your wallet, but what is your wallet made of? Or as we read in our gospel, make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven. That credit card commercial asks us to think ahead about the next time we do want to redeem points. Jesus challenges us to consider an even bigger picture. It is, Jesus says, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. We emphasize again, when Jesus talks about the kingdom, he is talking about here and now, as well as into God's infinite future. The Church of Jesus Christ is not just a waiting room where we hang around until our bus leaves for the afterlife. But what does the kingdom look like? When Jesus tells us make purses, what is he saying? I know some persons are more concerned about the purse and put more money into it than I can possibly imagine why someone would want to spend a lot of money on a bag. So I got to wondering about that. Is the purse what contains our values, or does the purse represent our values? And I think this may help us get at what Jesus is saying. There is a bit of irony here, as Capital One urged us to put their credit card in our wallet. The personal information required was also stolen. Their cybersecurity exposed a risk much bigger than the moth hole against which Jesus warned. We are continually, increasingly aware of the risks, whether it be stealing personal identity or disrupting the civic interaction of our democracy. What do we need to hear in Jesus' words? Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out. What contains, what holds, what protects our values. This has not been an easy week for those of us who want to pay attention to the news. Once again, gun violence has disrupted the feeling that our nation is a civic society. Once again, as people discuss the cause, we hear avoidance by people who know they could take steps. Let us make clear, mental or emotional instability may be involved. There are, however, many many, many who deal with their mental and emotional illness and do not go out and buy instruments designed to kill as many as quickly as possible. I do not like video games that include violence. I think they are a horrible symptom of our society. But if one studies the data, is willing to pay attention to some science, that shows that that is not the sole cause. So we get to the issue of the availability of weapons. I will be clear, I'm not against guns for appropriate use. However, how do the various tools available to us fit into a civic society? We hear people emphasize that this is a matter of evil in the heart. That is so very true. Because evil exists in all human hearts, that is why God gave us the law. And then in the view of Martin Luther, the state cannot save by making religious decrees. Thus we have separation of church and state. But the state, that is civil government, has the responsibility to protect its citizens by writing laws that are just. So which laws are just and protect? That is why morality we gain in our religious experience must interact with public policy. We separate the institutions of religion from the institutions of the state. However, we cannot separate our morality from the public policy of a civic society. That leads us to another big event in our nation this past week, the arrest of almost 700 undocumented workers in Mississippi. On this then, some will say, but they are illegal. So I wonder, when are laws necessary even if they don't always work? And why do people choose specific laws to say we need, and specific laws they say aren't going to help anyway? On news coverage, I heard the federal attorney for that region say that the purpose was to show employers that they cannot disregard the law. The trouble is, I do not know if any of the corporate folks had to worry that night about who would be taking care of their children. I realize I'm getting into political issues. My intent is not to say which party, which candidate, which agenda. With all that is happening around us, including legitimate thoughts offered by differing points of view, I read again our psalm. Happy is the nation whose God is the Lord. And I hear Jesus challenge his followers. I hear Jesus challenge us. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out. It seems to me that what Jesus is talking about is what is it that we want to contain, and how do we protect that? Our nation claims in the Pledge of Allegiance that we value liberty and justice for all. How do we protect that? I hear more words from the psalm. A king is not saved by the size of his army, nor are warriors rescued by their great strength. The horse gives vain hope for victory. Despite its great strength, it cannot save. Truly, your eye is upon those who wait for your steadfast love. What does that mean in the 21st century? That brings us to an issue which some say we can no longer ignore, and that is white nationalism. Now, it's perfectly fine to be proud of your ethnic heritage. I understand this congregation has a good history of Ole and Lena jokes, and it's perfectly good to laugh at those things about ourselves. But it is not good, it is not right to make jokes at the expense of someone else, especially if it is either something into which they are born or if it is based on an unfair stereotype. And that is the problem in our nation, that we think it's all right to put someone down, and that feeds into white nationalism. It is perfectly right to be proud of our nation, to be grateful for the good we have inherited, to honor those who have worked hard for that. At the same time, if we talk about protecting our values, we have to hear again the words of the psalm. Happy is the nation whose God is the Lord. Happy the people chosen to be God's heritage. Now here we have a problem. What does chosen mean? We like to think it gives us special privileges. Yet if we read the Bible, we realize that chosen means selected to benefit the all. It's like one of my teachers said, chosen is drafted. You are selected for something that will not be easy and will be for the benefit of others. That's why the psalmist goes on, the Lord looks down from heaven and sees all humankind. Yes, this God on the heavenly throne is not a kindly but slightly demented old grandfather. Oh, the kids are just having fun. This is the God who loved the world and took decisive action accordingly. Nationalism takes a national identity, which can be good, and makes it most important. Nationalism tends to see what is wrong in the nation and blame a whole group of other people for the problems. White nationalism claims that the Caucasian race is the epitome of evolution, or if they don't believe in evolution, they say it is God's chosen, special, prime above all others. Good people can become white nationalists. My mother's cousin in Germany was one of them. I'm glad I got to know him. He came of age in the late 1920s, early 1930s, when the results of World War I were devastating for the German people. He then heard a leader challenging the people to become great again. He heard this leader claim that other races, especially the Jews, were the problem. Oh, also the gypsies and the homosexuals. I do not think our cousin acted directly in the violence that resulted, yet he was complicit. When I met him 30 years later, I experienced his good nature. He claimed the Holocaust was a fake, made up by enemies of the German people. Yesterday I was listening to an interview of a man who had been a radical white nationalist. Since leaving that movement, he has written about it. He also speaks extensively, helping extricate young men, yes, it's primarily men, who have gone into the movement. Among the points he made, two stood out. He said that so many of the young men drawn into the white nationalist movement have lost any sense of value. In that state of feeling alone and worthless, they find then a community, they find a purpose. Sadly, tragically, they feel their purpose. They feel their purpose in life is coming to the rescue of the white nation that, according to their view, is being invaded, has been infested by less than humans. I hear Jesus asking, are we creating purses for the value God gives each of us? Containers that truly protect the God-given values in each and every one of us. The other point he made came in response to the question, how did you get out of the white nationalist movement? His quick answer, he received compassion from someone, and he did not deserve, he said. He did not deserve that compassion. And that's what got him out. We spent these past days with my grandchildren. When I'm with my grandsons in St. Louis, we have to do something with trains. So we went to the National Transportation Museum. I highly recommend it. There, amidst the historical display, was this fact. In 1849, the state of Missouri passed a law making it illegal to teach African American children to read. That reality, in a way, lives on in the state of Missouri and elsewhere. As it said, the state made it illegal to teach African American children to read. So a pastor, John Meacham, used a vessel anchored in the Mississippi River to teach reading to African American children. I was talking with a pastor colleague. He told me that he had recently received a letter from a public school principal. The congregation he had served had developed a ministry of reading in the nearby elementary school. The ethnic makeup of that school was no longer matched the background of that congregation. Yet for 11 years now, the people of that congregation have been reading to children. The principal wrote to describe the visible results both in data and in spirit from that ministry. And my pastor friend told me the benefit to the older Caucasians in the congregation is beyond measure. I understand Immanuel has had a relationship with Avery School in the past. I understand there have been some starts and stops and challenges to what is really needed. But I wonder, how might God be wanting us to be involved in that kind of a relationship right now? We hear the phrase, heart healthy. I had to put that one up there in the back of a Cheerios box. My grandchildren up in Minnesota, their other grandfather worked for General Mills, was involved in the development of Cheerios. If you've had a heart attack, you know that cardiac rehab is challenging but essential. So, what about a heart-healthy cardiac rehab for our society? May I suggest, first of all, that you pray. Ask that the Holy Spirit open your eyes, open your hearts, open your ears, open your minds to what's going on in the world. As you pray, take today's psalm and take Jesus' words. Ask what these words might be saying to us today. Maybe you could lay a newspaper alongside, or you have a phone app that connects you to today's news. Lay that alongside and continue to pray. Then find someone to talk with. Someone you know who has differing views. We are practicing this here at Immanuel in our faithful conversations. Begin with a simple question. How's it going with you? And listen. And continue to pray. Continue to hear Jesus' words as a question and an invitation. We realize that the purse that protects our values most is our relationship with Jesus Christ.